What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, who does the most, Ethan Smith. And before we get started today here on Locked On Pirates, I want to speak about Monday Night Football real quick. Of course, with this being a Pittsburgh sports-driven podcast, usually baseball, this news of Damar Hamlin last night on Monday Night Football hit home a little bit. I didn't grow up in Pittsburgh, but I have plenty of family that are still there. My parents grew up there. Their sisters and brothers and parents grew up there. Um, so to see Damar Hamlin go down the way he did yesterday, and um, for that entire scenario to play out the way it did, I won't even lie to you guys. I was scared for Damar Hamlin. I still am as I record this for you today. We haven't gotten many updates about Damar since the events of last night, but keep him in your thoughts. Keep T. Higgins in your thoughts as well. Keep the families of these players, the players themselves, the coaches, their families, everybody involved. Keep them in your thoughts. And also just make sure to hug your loved ones and let them know that you love them. Because obviously we have no idea what is going to transpire from this. We still have yet to get major updates on Damar Hamlin. Of course, a kid from McKees, went to Central Catholic High School, University of Pittsburgh, born and raised in Pittsburgh, does wonderful things for the community. And I mean, it's tough to sit here and talk about this. I mean, it really is. But Damar, we're praying for you, buddy. Keep fighting. Keep being the strong, wonderful individual that we all know you to be. Keep his family in your prayers as well, his mother, his best friend who has been giving us updates to the media, all of the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals players, their families. Keep them in your prayers. And at the end of the day, and Gary Morgan of Bucks in the Basement, one of our regular guests on the show during the regular season, put it very well when speaking on this situation on his website. So go check that out. Remember at the end of the day that these guys are indeed human beings. And I think that this situation shed light on that. But if you would like to hear more about this, make sure you go check out Locked On Bills, Locked On Bengals, Locked On NFL. Of course, go check out Christopher Carter over at Locked On Steelers. He works closely in the media with the Pittsburgh Panthers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nick Farbaugh over at Locked On Pitt, of course, has had constant praise for the work he's done through this. So go check them out. Today's episode, by the way, brought to you by Bet Online, where the game starts. But Damar, we're praying for you, buddy. Get better. And I just wanted to lead today's show with that. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about New Year's resolutions for the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to be talking about what these resolutions could mean for the team in 2023, how they can make the team better, and what could transpire if these things do come true. Again, everybody, keep Damar in your prayers. Just keep him in your prayers and do the thing that God wants us to do, and that's pray for him. All right? Let's get today's episode underway.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to that Pirates podcast, everybody. I am, of course, your host who does the most, Ethan Smith. Hope you guys are having as good of a Tuesday as you could possibly have with the news that we got last night and the events that transpired on Monday Night Football last night. If you were watching or closely watching, it affected me and it's still affecting me now, not knowing what's going on. So make sure if you need somebody to talk to somebody, make sure that you are okay, and also send prayers to all those players and Hamlin. Make sure you do that. On today's episode, it is a new year. The calendar has flipped. It is 2023. The Pittsburgh Pirates in this offseason have done a number of things. You could consider them good things. You could consider them bad things. You could consider them neutral things that they just had to do to make the team at least appear to be competitive. But of course, with a new year comes resolutions. Everybody has New Year's resolutions, be it going to the gym, eating better, cutting out soda, all kinds of different stuff, right? So the Pittsburgh Pirates as a team come into 2023 a team that in my opinion, looks a lot better than it was currently constructed at the end of this past season. You look at the moves that they've made, picking up Rich Hill, Vince Velasquez, Jarlin Garcia, Carlos Santana, G-Man Choi, Ryan Velade. There's a lot of different guys that have been picked up by this team. Austin Hedges is another one as well that don't exactly come off as, oh, this is going to be a needle mover guy. This is like a needle mover. No. But the Pirates have constructed themselves in a way to let these young players that they're looking forward to grow at the AAA level before they have to come to the major league level. So, New Year's resolution number one for this Pittsburgh Pirates team has to be the development of its young core and the young players that all of us are looking forward to. That has to be number one. That starts with O'Neal Cruz, obviously, who had a phenomenal year last year in his full rookie season. Of course, he didn't play the entire season, so this upcoming year will be his first full game 162 season at the major league level. If O'Neal Cruz can take the next step and really solidify himself as a superstar caliber player, the Pirates are going to be a better baseball team. I mean, you saw the things that he can do last year at this level. I mean, the kid has unrelenting power. He has absolutely every tool that you would look for. He's fast. He has the power. He's I would say about an average defensive player right now at shortstop, but will only continue to get better at that position. And if he takes that next step, I mean, you're talking about this Pirates team being leaps and bounds better than it already could be in a year or two. So I think that has to start. It starts with O'Neal Cruz for this first resolution of developing the youth. The second part of that comes where I mention it almost every time I record a podcast in the offseason about the young players that this Pirates team is going to be looking forward to in 2023. You look at Endy Rodriguez, you look at Quinn Priester, you look at Mike Burrows, you look at an Omar Cruz, you look at a Luis Ortiz, Johan Oviedo, Rodolfo Castro, Jack Sawinski, Kanan Smith and Jigba, Cal Mitchell. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Develop these guys in a way where, again, they can be solid MLB players, but you're not asking them to be superstars right away. What I want to see from Quinn Priester if he comes up this year, consistency. I just want to see him be consistent at the major league level if he comes up this year in whatever capacity that he may come up in. Endy Rodriguez is arguably the best Pirates prospect they have right now at the catcher position, but he may move away from that catcher position with Henry Davis also being there. What I'm getting at here with this is with the youth movement that the Pirates have kind of dug themselves into at this point, You got to develop these guys correctly. You have to develop them at some point. And you would hear guests of mine, Gary would say it, I say it, that you're throwing a dartboard with prospects. You're throwing the darts at the dartboard and hoping to hit a bullseye or hoping to get close to the bullseye and make a competitive baseball team. Not every prospect that we see in this youth movement that is even whoever in the top 30 prospects is not going to be the greatest player of all time. They might not even be serviceable MLB players. But you look at the sheer number of these guys that the Pirates have at their disposal, and it gets interesting. I mean, you heard me name a few before. That didn't include Carmen Majinski. That didn't include Cody Bolton. That didn't include Leover Peguero, Nick Gonzalez. There's a lot of players that the Pirates need to get looks on in 2023 that could be valuable pieces to this team for the next half decade. It's just the truth. Some of these guys, they have to get looks at these guys. They just do. And that's the arguably the biggest resolution that in 2023 that the Pirates can have is developing this youth to create a new core that can compete in Pittsburgh for a NL Central Division title or a NL Wild Card Series win or an NL Divisional Series win or the World Series. Create a young core that is going to fill seats at the most beautiful ballpark in baseball and give you a consistent basis for winning that you could have for a very long time. That is the biggest thing the Pirates need to start doing in 2023. Am I saying it's going to be fully solidified by the end of this year? No. I mean, it's also January. How could I tell you that? I don't know what guys are going to be the big impact players or not. I can theorize on it, but there are enough prospects in this system now where the Pirates seriously need to take a look in the mirror and say, we have the possibility of a young core in the works. Let's start doing it this year. We'll tell you a little bit more about other resolutions that I have going into the 2023 calendar year. But before we do that, I want to let you guys know about the wonderful people over at Bet Online. Of course, Bet Online is where the game starts, and it is a sponsor of today's show. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball. They've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can also find those at BetOnline as well. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action happening today. And BetOnline is where the game starts. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I, again, am your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. Talked about the Damar Hamlin situation, and I gave my prayers and thoughts to him to begin this episode. But now we're talking New Year's resolutions for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Why building the young core has to be the biggest one. Kind of a smaller one here, but still a very important one. The Pirates need to find a way to keep their pitching healthy in 2023. We've seen an emphasis from general manager Ben Cherington this offseason to make this Pirates pitching staff a much better group. There has been an emphasis for that with the signings of veteran Rich Hill, Vince Velasquez, Jarlin Garcia. There has been a emphasis on making this pitching staff a better unit for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2023. And we talked about the Pirates pitching staff not too on the last episode that we did on December 27th about signing Rich Hill and what it meant for this team and what it meant for guys like JT Brubaker or Zach Thompson or Bryce Wilson, who could be going back and forth between the bullpen and the starting rotation. But all that depth that we talk about with the pitching staff that the Pirates are going to possibly have with the signings that they've had this offseason is mute if the injury bug ends up coming back again this year. We've seen it the last two seasons with this Pirates team. The bullpen starts out very, very fast. They start out really well, and then they falter down the end of the stretch because of health concerns, because of lack of depth. So I think using the depth that they have at the pitching position with the signings they've made, albeit when I say that, I'm not saying, oh, this is like a top 15 staff in baseball or anything, but they have bodies now. They have players, they have guys that can go into the game. And you could say, I can feel comfortable with Zach Thompson pitching me 2 innings of relief ball. I feel comfortable with Rich Hill giving me 5 innings of starting pitching baseball. I feel comfortable with giving the ball to David Bednar in the bottom of the ninth inning, up 1 run at home. Health is the biggest thing for that pitching staff. And then, of course, you're going to supplement that with the likes of Burrows, Bolton, Priester, Majinski, Cruz. There's a lot of different guys that are going to impact that pitching staff this year. But I hope that these younger guys in the pitching ranks, especially the prospects, aren't forced into it too fast, and that the depth at the major league level takes advantage of what the Pirates are giving it, which is a chance to prove themselves that this team can have a good pitching staff. It's something that the Pirates can do. And speaking on health again, I think that's another thing the Pirates would hope for in 2023 is the health of Ke'Bryan Hayes as well. Ke'Bryan Hayes, of course, the past couple years has dealt with lingering injuries. Of course, 2021 was supposed to be his first full year. He has the injury to the Chicago Cubs, the second game of the season that year, misses extended time, comes back, plays well. Last year, he has wrist issues, minor injuries throughout the year that kind of just never let him catch a full stride. I think if we get a completely healthy season from Ke'Bryan Hayes, he's going to take that next step offensively that we've been waiting for. Defensively, you know what you're getting from Ke'Bryan Hayes over at the third base position. The kid is a Gold Glove caliber player and arguably should have won the award this year if the Pirates win more and his offense was better, because for some reason in Major League Baseball, we dictate who wins a defensive award based off of offensive production. With that said, awards aside, the Pirates have arguably the best defensive third baseman in baseball. You want to see the offense uptick. So that would be resolution number 3. Ke'Bryan Hayes takes a noticeable step forward in the maturation of his offensive consistency, while also keeping that same consistency defensively and becoming an anchor for this Pirates team, especially becoming an anchor after he signed the largest contract in Pittsburgh Pirates history. Again, not saying much, it's not a lot of money, but it's still the largest contract in team history, and Ke'Bryan Hayes is the sole owner of that as of right now. So he needs to step up. He needs to become a unquestioned leader of this team, which he can do. His father, Charles, has instilled maturity into that kid since day one, so he can definitely do it. He can easily become an unquestioned leader on this team. And if Ke'Bryan Hayes bats 260, 270 year in, year out, plays the same defensively that he has ever since he came up to the major league ranks in 2020, you're talking about a top player in baseball at that point. So again, it starts with O'Neal Cruz. We've talked about that. It starts with building a young core. It starts with keeping these pitchers healthy and offensive improvement from Ke'Bryan Hayes, which all of these things, the only reason I'm saying these resolutions is not to say, oh, well, the Pirates should go trade for Rafael Devers. That's a New Year's resolution, right? Well, no, it's not going to happen. I'm giving resolutions here that could actually happen for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we'll end today's show with our final resolution for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all of the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. They have just the right thing you need to get through the holidays. And I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious you won't think they're good for you. They are the perfect thing for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they are all covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievably wonderful flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are also super healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein in all Built bars. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built bars at Built.com. Well, now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. So head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you want to go to builtbar.com still, though, make sure you use the code locked on to get 15% off of your next order when you invest in the best protein bars on the market. So, we're going to recap today's show of New Year's resolutions with arguably the biggest of all for the Pittsburgh Pirates, as this team feels like it's very close. I don't know if some of you would agree on that. This team feels close. And when you look at how this team is constructed, I keep saying that right now because I mean it's January. The team could change from now to to March. Brian Reynolds is the best player on this baseball team. Does O'Neal Cruz have the potential to be better than Brian Reynolds? Sure. Does Ke'Bryan Hayes? Sure. There's players on this team that have the potential to be a Brian Reynolds level type player. But the only question about that right now is they're not there yet. So why not have a Brian Reynolds on your team to continue to grow with this young team? For him to be a leader for this young team while also playing at a marquee level in his prime. We know that he reportedly requested a trade earlier in the month of December. Teams have, like the Yankees, the Mariners, like whoever, have expressed interest in Brian Reynolds. So the interest is there. He is still a Pittsburgh Pirate, though. So for my final solution of 2023, and when I look into the camera on this one, I'm looking at Ben Cherington, I'm looking at management, I'm looking at ownership. Brian Reynolds is the best player the Pirates have had since Andrew McCutchen was traded from this team. It's just true. And Brian Reynolds was the player we received in the Andrew McCutchen trade. So, taking that into account, you look at this team and the growth that it has had over the past couple of years, albeit not by record, but the growth that this team has had as far as the young players that have been inserted into the mold here. Mentioned them earlier. Find a way to make it work with Brian Reynolds. I don't know. Here's what I'll say on this. I don't know what ownership and management and the team has to do to make things work with Brian Reynolds. I don't. I am not here to tell you how they can do that. I don't know. An extension would obviously help. An extension in the ballpark of what Brian Reynolds wants, if not more than what he wants, would help. Reminder that this is a small market team. So they don't have the crazy financials to spend crazy money. Or they do, but it hasn't been logical. With Brian Reynolds, it's logical. It's logical to give him an extension because he's a phenomenal baseball player. He just is. Did he have a down year this year? Yeah, he started the year off pretty slow. He's one of the better players in the second half of the season in the outfield of the National League this past year. And I've said it all offseason that I think he's going to have a major bounce back heading into 2023. I really do. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way next year. I really do. So find a way to make it work. Find a way to possibly get an extension done with Brian Reynolds. Find a way to let him be the unquestioned leader or one of the unquestioned leaders of this team moving forward. And if I had to talk about 2023 with the Pittsburgh Pirates for just a second, speaking from the heart here as a fan, with the emotions going on today, of course, with many other things, give the Pirates fans hope. Give them something to cheer for. Give them something to be, I'm proud to be a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. That starts in a lot of different places. Be a competitive baseball team. We're not even necessarily asking for the playoffs in 2023. Would it be nice? Yes, it would be. Is it realistic? No. But say the Pirates go 75 and 87 this year and look competitive throughout the whole year. I mean, look at some of the best moments we had of 2022. Going to Dodger Stadium and sweeping the LA Dodgers, beating them 5 out of 6 games, beating the New York Yankees in a split at PNC Park. Beating good teams is a very good feeling when you are a young baseball team like the Pittsburgh Pirates. But be competitive this year. 2023 is an opportunity for this team to show that this rebuild has not been useless. Because if we have another 100 loss type season this year, or a season that just looks like another punt or another throwaway, I don't know how the Pirates fans keep hope after that. I don't. So that's all I would ask out of this 2023 year. O'Neal Cruz, keep improving, pal. You're amazing. Develop these young players and make a new core. Keep the pitching staff healthy and keep it consistently good like it started the last 2 years. Find a way to make it work with Brian Reynolds. Get Key Brian Hayes to become an offensive beast in a sense, along with the defensive abilities he already obtains. Let's see if it happens. 2023 is going to be a great year. It's going to be a good year for the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think. And it's my pleasure to be your host of the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And to speak from the heart once again, Damar Hamlin, I'm praying for you, buddy. Everybody in Pittsburgh is praying for you. Everybody in the NFL, sports fans all around the world, all around the United States are praying for you, buddy. You're going to be okay. Thank you guys for tuning in today. It's obviously, again, an emotional day for sports fans, Pittsburghers, and all of that. As I mentioned earlier, send love to Locked On Bills, Locked On Bengals, Locked On Pitt, Locked On NFL, and send love to your loved ones. Again, as I mentioned before, your loved ones are the most important people in your life. And in a millisecond, you never know how their lives can change and how it can affect yours. And let's remember to be kind. Let's remember to be sincere and have compassion for not only ourselves, but for everybody around us and the people we idolize in sports. Guys, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday evening, and I will see you guys on the flip side.